kind of mentioned something, Chris, about Jared Goff and how he seemed to play well when we were keeping it a buck about him, or some may view it as hate. So maybe we go
I'm
back
just
there.
saying, you're the superstitious one.
I am.
Just
You're
a
right.
little stitious.
Talks with. No, I'm kidding. I was gonna go a little bit too hard. I was up late last night after the episode of Hard Knocks. I was kind of just terrified of the things I was able to see Tyreek Hill do, and we just can't seem to get going with Jameson Williams. I posted that very thought. Some people went at Jared Goff about it. They said we don't have the arm strength to do it, but whatever. We'll talk about that later, like I said. But JG, there is a some fans would like to call it the narrative when it comes to Jared Goff and playing in the weather. But I just don't think that's the case. It's not me preaching a narrative. There's numbers that support it, and it's not just a me thing either. In fact, Jared Goff had a media session yesterday, and every single question seemed to be about that narrative. Chris?
What gives you the confidence and the comfort to play at the type of conditions you might see this weekend?
In a weather game like this,
What's the worst conditions to play in as a quarterback?
if it's windy and rainy and everything else,
kind of embraces the weather, doesn't care about it. And precipitation, or what is it about the weather?
Yeah, nothing I can do about it. Nothing I can do about it. So
what's rough on a quarterback, wind or snow?
I feel like I've been asked this question like 4 times in this.
Now, if it's a narrative, and I'm just a hater, I'm the only one pushing it, why is there an entire room of beat reporters all asking questions about what, Spinny?
The weather.
The weather. You see the thumbnail? Ain't a fucking weather, man.
Yeah.
Why are you asking these goddamn questions? Well, there are supporting numbers. Up late last night, couldn't sleep, so I did some of the most nerdiest shit possible, which is probably what I need to do more of to be great at this job. But I went and I looked up, and shout out to Mike Payton for helping me, cheat at this one a little bit because he wrote an article on it last year. But I looked up every single game Jared Goff has played below 40 degrees, 40 degrees and under. And these are by the numbers. In 11 games where Jared Goff has played in 40-degree weather or under, he's thrown for 61% completion, 11 touchdowns with 5 interceptions, and 2,311 yards.
That's not bad.
In 11 games.
In 11 games.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah,
one
obviously
touchdown.
It's not one game.
Yeah, it's like it wasn't the greatest, I guess. To put it to you this way, like a lot of zero tutties, a lot of 0 and zeros. There was one with his 4 interceptions. He did have one where he went off for like 4 touchdowns. I don't remember the team that I have it on my phone. I'll look it up. But like there was 1 game, 2 games, where like he put in like the majority of those numbers. The rest, on a consistency basis, they weren't pretty. It's not a narrative. There's numbers to back it up. And then he mentioned yesterday too. He talked about like a game in 2017 he played with the Rams against the Giants, the lowly Giants at that time, and they beat him 51-14, 51-17 or something like that. So I went back and I watched that game. Couldn't sleep. It was barely fucking raining, and it was for sure. It was like 63 degrees that day too. And this is not the same scenario. Like, we saw the situation we've seen in Baltimore. Obviously, I think he showed up a little bit last year against Green Bay.
He looked good against Green Bay last year.
234 yards, no touchdowns, no receptions, but was straight. He had a deep ball actually that game too. The Jamie got called back. That deep ball to Khalif Raymond, one of the best throws I've ever seen him make here in the Detroit Lions uniform. But overwhelmingly in these cold weather games, man, it's a kryptonite.
Yeah, I mean, those stats weren't too bad when you look at it. 11 touchdowns to 5 interceptions over an 11-game span is not awful. It's not great, but it's not awful. And yeah, we know, that's the narrative out there. So the Lions are going to have to rely on the run game for sure against the Bears, and luckily they can do that. Now, without Frank Ragnow in there, is that run game going to be as successful as we'd hope it'd be? I don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see. I expect Graham Glasgow to fill in pretty well, but David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are gonna have to do a lot in this game, and Jared's gonna have to step up when he needs to step up and deliver the ball down the field.
Yeah. Booter in Woodward Sports Chat says, wait, one of those 11 games he threw 4 interceptions, and he has a total of 5 interceptions in all 11. Yes, that's correct. So he threw 1 interception in 10 games. Yes, Booter, that is correct. But a 0 and 0 were like a majority of those games. One of the games in that situation was a Pittsburgh one, ended up being a tie. You guys remember that one? Felt like nobody was trying to win that fucking game.
That was a terrible game.
Felt like a bad acid trip. It's just like,
That was an awful game.
what the fuck is
They're
happening?
like, oh, turnover here in overtime. Oh, they get the ball back. They turned it over. Look out.
It was brutal. Chris, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna ask what the record was in that in those 11 games.
Actually, I don't have the win-loss record.
Because I mean, that to me is the most important. Like, you can, again,
Yeah.
we've seen it time and time again. Like, good quarterbacks can have bad games and they can still do just enough to get their team to win, or they can have just enough pieces around them to win. Either way, this is a win-loss and tie league. So I think that's like the most important stat when it comes to it. And also, why didn't you like include like fumbles or anything like for total turnovers? That like
I didn't want to shit
is
on
kind
him
of
completely. I didn't want to.
So you stayed up
Not today. You
for
didn't want
like
to shit on
7
him.
extra hours.
Chris, where the fuck are your stats, buddy? Where are yours? Come
Right
on.
there, you stayed up an extra 7 hours. That's my stat. You stayed up an extra 7
look
hours
up
to
the
go
fumbles.
nice.
The one there was one of those games I looked at the fumbles, and I think it was the Pittsburgh one. I don't think he had any. He got sacked a shit ton of times though.
Yeah, we just, we
I'm not
need
shitting
him
him by any
to.
means. I'm just saying I'm not having high expectations in this game.
No, yeah, he needs to do what he does, which is go out there, manage the game, don't turn the ball over, and have success on third down. If you can do that, it's a good recipe to win. And that's what we need out of him. We're going to lean on this run game because this offense is predicated on running the ball and running play action. So as long as he doesn't turn the ball over and he is good on third down, the Lions should win this game.
Chris, I'll send you I guess the sources if you'd like to see it in a little bit, like I guess broken down context. So a lot of the games wasn't, again, not a lot of production, but I mean you hit the nail on the head, Spinny. It's just if he can just not turn the ball over, we can survive these games. We blew out, I think, for sure the Giants last year, in a similar situation, and we still won that game big. Jared Goff had no touchdown or an interception in that one, but he didn't turn it over. That was the key thing, like you said. Similar thing with the Jets. He had the one touchdown in that one. It was a big yak one by Brock Wright, game winner. That shit was super hyped because the Jets defense was amazing. They looked great that day too, but. Yeah, just get us by. Mm-hmm. The one thing where I'm nervous about that, even though still, is no Frank Ragnow. And then following the game last week, once he went out of the game, they seemed incapable of running the ball at a consistent pace. Now, obviously, have a week to like get that fixed.
Things,
yeah, I'm saying like get that. I hope get that fixed, but I don't know, man. I don't know. What we've seen is easy. Is Shannon Goff. I'm really not. I'm just listen. The weather was quite a narrative yesterday for him. And I was like, let's find out if it's a real thing. It's a real thing. The numbers, Jared Goff and cold weather, it's not the greatest. And I don't know if it's speaking with Kool-Aid about it yesterday, but Chicago's ready to whoop some ass, bro.
Chicago's going to be mad. Chicago's going to be mad for sure. They're going to want to get their lick back for sure after the way that first game ended. But like I said, I expect to win this game. I expect the Lions to go in there. I expect them to still be able to run the ball comfortably as long as there aren't turnovers. They would have dominated Chicago if it wasn't for those 3 interceptions.
So that one actually is just the Pittsburgh game. I didn't get the yards in there, but it was like 144, I want to say. It was a 16-16 tie with Pittsburgh, 14 completions out of 25 attempts. This one, Detroit Lions last year, obviously outside game with the Bears, had the one touchdown, 236 yards. It's actually straight. But the Bears also ended up with the #1 overall pick. The Giants last year, 24th ranked defense, DVOA. That's what I'm telling you, cashed in 0 touchdowns, 0 receptions. And then the Jets, the yak touchdown by Brock Wright, 1 touchdown, 0 receptions. Like, it's not. It's like right in between. Like,
I mean, we all know. Like, I understand if you love Jared Goff for some reason and everything like that, but we all know he doesn't have the strongest arm. And he's not whistling balls on a consistent basis to receivers. But he's shown this year that he can pick his spots and he can make things happen. So we need him to do that. Like, we don't need him to be Superman to beat the Bears. We don't need him to be Joe Montana to beat the Bears. We need him to keep the ball on their side. We need him to take care of the ball, and we need him to get third downs. Like, that's what he has to go out there and do.
Gun guy, easy set it up to make Goff look bad.
Set up what?
Do I have a fucking Madden controller? I'm playing with him in the game. And I'm just throwing. What do you? I just don't get why everything relates to hate to you guys rather than like if I give you an actual fucking like statistical like numbers. I just don't get it. I really don't. But I'm done dealing with like that side of the fan base. You guys are lunatic psychopaths. I love you though, because you're Lions fans. But
and MPWMU, yes, whistling balls. Pause. No, it's just. I mean, we know he's even indoors. He's prone to throw some ducks, some wobblers, some stuff like that. But as long as they get to their target, I don't care if it's a spiral or not. Just make some things happen. Don't turn the ball over. That's all I ask of him.
Yeah, just like when it's cold out, those things. I don't know. I'm not coming in this one with high expectations of the offense, but I will say that the weather stuff has gone up. Like I'm talking about, like actual precipitation. That's no longer on the weather report. Still around like I think it's like 50 or something degrees. Mm-hmm. I think actually a little bit lower. I'm gonna have to check the wind. But I think the Detroit Lions. I'll say this: going back to the game they had in Ford Field, although the Chicago Bears has beat for the majority of it, outside the turnovers, they were able to move the ball pretty consistently. Not to, including their run defense as well. Like they're supposed to be number one ranked run defense. But Jahmyr Gibbs, I think he had like 30, 40 plus on them.
Yeah.
And then same thing, Monty had his, just over 60 or 50. And that's because, and granted too, like they weren't even like running as much because they had to throw to get themselves back in the game. So I think we're able to do it, man. I really do.